Thanks for joining us for our October meeting, for the Agones community meeting. I'll put a link to the working doc in the chat, just so everybody can see it, but we've got some stuff from Dom and Mark on the list. And Dom, you're first up if you want to dive into it.
Yep. So, hi guys. What was I wanting to speak about this month? Oh yeah. So, myself and Mark had gone backwards and forwards on a ticket about exposing metrics. Both player tracking metrics are basically where we started, and then arbitrary metrics. One of the discussions was basically where does the line end between Agones and what kind of what point do we stop with this? There's a couple of other projects that might be of interest. However, I think the consensus that me and Mark got to was we'll give it a try. We'll build out and we'll flesh out the API and what it might do to change the SDK. We'll have a look at that, put it forward as a proposal, and see if people like that or not, and see how much of a burden it might be to maintain. So that's kind of where we got to with that one. Mark, I don't know if you want to jump in and add anything to that.
That seems reasonable.
One of the ones that I have been looking at is the possibility of maybe if it's just coming from the CRD, using cube state metrics instead, and just write a build of cube state metrics, which could do a lot. But if you want other metrics from that sidecar, then I think we're best just implementing the open census metrics endpoint there.
What was I gonna say? Well, I don't know what cube state metrics is.
Cube state metrics, it's a project which will look at metrics based on any deployed thing in Kubernetes. So it has things like number of deployments, number of created, destroyed, all that sort of stuff. So I kind of thought it could be a good one to add in an extra thing here for game servers, and then get but I think it's effectively what we're doing with using events inside the controller.
Right.
So it's very similar to that. So I think, like we said, just keep with that pattern at the minute, or expose a metrics endpoint on the sidecar. I think depending on what the API looks like, we might get more information at that point. Yeah, which comes on to the next kind of thing that I wanted to talk about. At the minute, when we do player added, we get quite a small event, which is just set to 1. So your player count set to 1. What I would prefer is maybe player connected, or player left. I can't remember what the API actually calls it when players join and players leave. But giving the ID of the player as well, seeing as though we have it, this would definitely be much better in my telemetry systems, because I try and fire off anything around game service to a product called Honeycomb, and it basically allows me to do more insightful stuff with my events.
So,
maybe it's just...
Yeah, I was hesitant to put that in there, just because we were already shifting around so many bits by adding player tracking.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt that count was like a good happy medium to just be like, okay, what's happening with my game server? I can see. If you need that data, you can get at it through the event system, right? Because you can see the diff.
Right. Okay.
So if you absolutely need that data, you can track game server events and just diff the two lists between the old game server and the new game server.
Fine.
So the data's there.
Okay, maybe I'm just looking at the wrong set of events then. If I have a look at the events for the raw events for the game server to see
yeah. I was sort of like, if 1,000 players join at once within a single slot, like that means we're adding it to the we're dropping that data into the API twice, and that just kind of felt I just was like, nah, I don't know. That was primarily my concern there.
Okay, no worries. I mean, yeah, it's not on the standard set of events, but I'm sure, like you said, we could diff what.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so you can do diffs against the two game servers that come through, like the old and new, based on the updates, and see what data is going through if you need.
Okay, nice. I will have a look into that. Maybe make a note on that. Remove my lazy comment and. And that's kind of it for me. Although humble brag, I recorded my coupon talk yesterday, and Agones is in there. Yeah, so that's going to be fun when it comes out. A very nervous presentation about running game servers.
But you pre-recorded it, so like it's fine.
Man, that was way worse. That was so much worse. Because like then I could see where I messed up and had to re-record it like a million times.
I finally, well, when I did mine, I finally had to just like accept. Not, it wasn't for KubeCon, it was for GRPC Conf, but I kind of had to like accept that if you were presenting for real, there'd be a fair amount of like, little glitches that you can't help because it's live. So it adds to the authenticity when you do it on a recording.
Okay.
That's what I tell myself. Yeah.
April, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that.
Yeah.
Here we go. We should throw a link into the notes. Actually, make sure that people are aware. I'm looking.
Eric, it's KubeCon North America, which is November 17th or something.
Yeah, my talk from 18th. I can find a link to it and throw it.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna put it in the notes because that's very cool, and I haven't registered for KubeCon yet, but I guess I should do.
I haven't done anything. No. Well, it's not till November.
Even if you don't attend KubeCon, the talks are obviously recorded, and they always make it available afterwards, so you can catch it afterwards. But that's very cool. We're very excited.
Yeah, I got it.
Mark's not had a talk accepted at KubeCon about Agones for a while, so.
I had one back in the day. It's fine.
It's fine. Passing the torch. It's great.
Fine. This is scalable advocacy. That's what I'm doing. All right. Is it my turn?
I think so.
Yep. Over to you.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Awesome. September was a lot, so I didn't do the things from last meeting. So this is mostly me reminding myself that I need to do the things that I said I would do last meeting, which is create tickets for SDK send game server and watch execution. So that was the when you connect to watch, you immediately get an instance of the game server. We had to go through, I think, a while ago actually. That probably should go to beta at the very least, but I need to write that ticket. If somebody decides they want to write these tickets before I get to them, like, please don't let me stop you. By the same token, there should be some discussion around player tracking and moving that to beta as well. It seems like there's some people using it, which is good, and so far hopefully nothing's broken, so sweet. We should do that, and part of that ticket is, I know, Dom, all the stuff that you wrote as well, and Puno, you also had some input on like rejigging some of those APIs. They look a little nicer and work a little bit more ergonomically. That's fine. Tim is pointing out on the ticket. Actually, why don't I can present. Why don't I present the notes doc since we're here? It's probably a bit nicer and people can see what's actually on screen, and it'll be in the recording. Dominic seems to think that there's going to be possibly an issue with getting Unreal to do the watch API, but I'm like, well, we could do it in Unity. So like, I feel like, if you're just saying that Unreal is just not as good, then that's, that's on you.
It's recorded now, Mark. Tim Sweeney will come after you. He's gone after Apple. What makes you think he won't come after you? It was definitely a pain. I might be able to do a poor man's watch, which is basically just calling get game server. I think that was kind of where I got to in my head when I last looked at it.
Yeah.
So that may be one, and just like have a comment that it is a poor version of watch. It's not the full fat version.
Yep. What was I going to say? Yeah, I think in Unity we had to dig into some of the middleware stuff. Some of that was a bit more exposed on the HTTP request side of things. Like you could intercept stuff as it came through in chunks, and it worked out reasonably well. I have no idea what works in on the Unreal side, but cool. We can talk about that. But yeah, most of that watch execution stuff is more about the functionality of watch. Any questions on that? No, I'll move on from there. Cool. Some of the people who probably aren't here, actually some customers of ours, discovered that there's some performance issues with the gRPC allocation endpoint that have been highlighted. I'm gonna probably, unless somebody beats me to it, I will probably jump in on this. Primarily, the big issue here is if you're not familiar with the Kubernetes client, throttles itself to about 4 requests a second by default, which is not very fast. So unless you specifically override it, things go slow if you're doing stuff through the Kubernetes like Go client or any like CRD client. And so when we built the allocator, unfortunately, we missed that one because we have it fixed in the controller, but we missed it in the allocator. And they were like, why is we only getting 4 requests a second per allocation? So I just need to go in, add some Helm things, and then add some boost performance. We did some internal testing and did a little kind of hacking stuff in it. Yeah, it goes up to like 100 plus requests a second as soon as we make the change, which is pretty nice. We also, there's another error here. Because of the way we cache when we bin pack in the allocation system, because we have multiple pods, they can try and bin pack exactly the same. And so they may try and allocate the same game servers at the same time a lot, and that can result in a lot of contention, and eventually it'll fall over. At particularly high rates. I think we could probably do some slight randomization with some like configuration options to maybe get some more throughput on that as well. So we might take a stab at that. I'm going to try and get maybe those both done before the next release in a couple of weeks, but we'll see how my timing goes. Bruna, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that? I know you were looking into some of this stuff too.
No, you covered pretty well. Thank you.
Cool. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So yes, more performance, better. On that's specifically the gRPC allocation endpoint.
And perhaps we need to have a discussion and adding the performance testing before the release.
I would actually love to say like we probably we started on this, but we'll throw this on here. We really should have continual performance testing.
Mark, was that just against the allocator, or is that against any Kubernetes API?
I would say allocation, fleet scale up, scale down. Is there any other factors I can think of?
Sorry, I meant was the bug just against the gRPC allocation endpoint, or is it?
It's just the gRPC allocation endpoint. The one the custom resource definition one is fine because that goes through the controller.
And you don't know if there's any other throttles. For instance, so for my example, I'm using select against labels heavily in Kubernetes to make sure I get the right game servers. Because I basically just reuse allocated game servers constantly.
Got it.
And I've not seen any performance hits so far. So I'm just wondering if it's across the board.
No, it should be fine. So way back in the day when we first started doing stuff with Agones, some of our senior engineers who work on other stuff now actually were like, how fast can we make this spin up and spin down? We realized it was super slow. And the biggest thing we found was in the controller for Agones, like the QPS was still set to 4, which was the default. And so we bumped that up by a bunch and then did some other work as well. So anything that's running directly through the controller, which involves all the CRDs and the extension APIs, which is also like game server allocation or anything like that, that has a nice boost. I think we run about a few hundred QPS per second we have that set to. But because the allocator is actually a completely separate binary, just missed it. And so we just need to pass that. We just need to create some Helm args for that we can set that independently and then pass that information through and make that change. But preliminary tests.
Also make sure we document where we can do it in YAML as well. For those of us who are allergic to Helm.
I don't understand. Well, I think sorry, go ahead, Elker.
So actually, if you're using kube client to make the call, and that your client also will be also bounded by that default 4.5 value. So if you're just using not gRPC but that kube client config, you have to override that QPS and burst values to get a better throughput.
Actually, since I've seen you drop in here, Elker, can I bug you publicly to get a PR in to get your performance testing tool thing that you built for allocation in a PR?
Please? I'm working on it. Yeah.
Sweet.
So I just trying to get those things in.
Cool.
And so people can use that one and the setting that I'm testing with, so they can reproduce as well.
I'm gonna check it there. That also means that whenever I actually start working on this, I'm not like, hey, Elker, can you run this for me for the 15th time?
Yeah, this is actually I had to write a new client pretty much because I was using when I was testing more than a year ago using a regular GSA allocation to the kube client. Now it's different, so Not that different, but it's a little bit different.
Sweet. Awesome. I think the only other item I have, I think I've asked, we've gone through a few iterations of like, what was the allocation based on player capacity? It now seems to have formed into, I think, a quite nice reallocation policy that also works for player capacity, but in theory could also be used for multiple sessions per game server or multi-tenancy within a single game server or like high density game servers or probably a bunch of other stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, please do and provide any feedback. I'd like to get started on that soon. I think I'm pretty excited about that. I think that's going to have some really nice applicability and the ability to be able to do things like give me a game server that has, give me a game server that has room for 2 people, whether it's allocated or not, or I prefer to have that. And then if I can't find it, give me one that's just ready and allocated as per normal. But also because you can define your own custom labels, you could be like, this game server tracks how many rooms it has internally, and we're just going to keep a label that's free until like we shut that down and close that off. And there's a couple of different patterns you could do to do that too. So you could use it for all kinds of different allocation strategies, which I think are pretty exciting. I quite like it. So if you haven't checked it, please do provide any feedback. Seems like most people have looked at it already, which is nice. Okay, that's me. That's done.
I have a question about that one, Mark. Is that part of player tracking moving to beta, or is this something that builds on top of player tracking and can be released independently?
I would say released independently. Keep them separate. I think that's a good question.
Excellent. So we aren't going to block the previous ticket about moving to beta based on this. This can be. I just want to make sure that they are independent concerns and we're not slowing down the other player tracking graduating, because it sounds like a number of people are starting to use that.
Yeah, I think the concerns I personally had around graduating player tracking was more about usage, and creating this functionality was a way to get people. Well, I wanted to get the functionality in, but was to get people to use it more. But if people are using it, then I'd have less concerns. Although I know that player tracking has some API changes stuff that we want to get in there. But yes, no. And also my thought on this, and maybe I should actually document it, was that it would sit under a different feature flag. And so you could independently turn each piece on and off as well. I should actually make a note of that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because the other side flag should start to default to true. And this being new functionality would be an alpha, and the flag would default to false. Right. So
exactly.
What you'd get is if you wanted both, you'd have to flag this one on yourself, but the other one should already be turned on unless you really don't want it and you turn it off.
Yep.
I don't know if there's a way for us to track, but it would be really useful to track to know if people are feature flagging things off for any reason once we start defaulting them, because the idea is when they graduate to GA, we eventually remove the ability to turn them off. So I think that would be a really good signal that it's not ready if people are finding that they have to turn it off for some reason.
I take it the comment is fully up to date. I haven't fully read it through yet, but I take it the comment that's with the full design is up to date. Yeah,
yes.
Fine.
Yeah, I went back and edited it.
Yeah. I fully support the new game server state. That is really good. I'm just doing it by a label at a minute. So yeah, nice.
Good. Eric, I think it's you.
Yeah, so my question really is, I don't know what else I can do on that one, because the question in the bug is basically like, can you even turn this on elsewhere? And so, that one seems kind of stuck. This is the owner references thing where in newer versions of Kubernetes, if you don't have the owner reference defined, if there's a feature enabled in Kube, if you don't have the owner references defined, it complains. This was the issue we ran into on the live stream. And so the bug is kind of an RFE, like, hey, can you please put the owner references in? So I don't know. I can try and fart through it myself and maybe PR it.
That probably would make a certain amount of sense, because it seems like you have an environment in which you can test that, and I don't know if we have an environment in which we can test this.
Yeah, I don't know if you can turn it on in GKE. You can probably turn it on in stuff like Minikube.
Or if you can provide steps for how to do it specifically in Minikube, so that we can that would probably go a long way too.
Yeah, I'll try and mess with that tomorrow.
The other environments that are relatively easy to spin up and possibly customize are like microcates or K3s or something, right? I'm almost positive you cannot do this in a GKE EKS type environment, which is where like GKE is where most of our testing runs. So makes it harder for us to test this stuff using our make targets. But yeah, some step-by-step instructions of like, here's how to turn it on and reproduce the problem so that we could easily reproduce the problem. Because I've never installed OpenShift, so that's a pretty high bar to try and reproduce the problem to install OpenShift somewhere and get that up and running.
Installing OpenShift can be a high bar. And this may be somewhere where maybe we can help y'all, where we make it easy or available to you to just deploy one somewhere. Because we've got internal systems that I might be able to get some clearance for somebody from your project. Sorry, my phone just started ringing. I don't know how much of that you lost. But yeah, we'll chat more about it.
Yeah.
Offline.
Cool. That sounds like the where I start making the oh god lawyer's face.
I know what that face is like.
Yeah. Cool. All right. That sounds like good next steps. Let me add a note on there.
I'll assign that bug back to myself.
Cool. I actually haven't spun up Minikube in a really long time.
Actually, I can't assign bugs. So if you want to assign it to me, I'll add a note about what we just talked about.
I just wrote a note.
You can also have automation assign bugs if you type /assign and then at your GitHub handle. It's also possible that issues, I don't think they can be assigned to people that aren't part of the org, I believe is what it is. So it's possible that it can't be assigned to you no matter what. You should just put a note in the bug that I'm working on it. Okay, you did. Sorry.
I think we all did the same thing at the same time. There we go.
Eventual consistency.
There we go. I think, Robert, I think it's you, Ravi.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to give a heads up. I filed an issue on this, but I'm not sure if anybody saw it. It occurred to me last week or so that Helm v2 is reaching end of life. Like it's been deprecated for a while. There've been lots of migration guides to Helm v3. We moved to Helm v3. I think it was around 1.6, 1.7. So that's multiple months ago. But the official end of life for Helm v2 is happening in about a month on November 13th of this year. At which point, it's not clear to me exactly what's going to happen with Helm v2, but it's certainly no longer going to be supported in any way. They're going to close any outstanding issues. They're not going to take any feature requests. Stuff may or may not continue working. I know there was some discussion about whether like the images and that kind of stuff would still be hosted. I think that Microsoft stepped up to pay for hosting of stuff, so stuff would not just completely break on that day. But we have moved to Helm v3. There's been a note in there for a while that you should start using Helm v3. So I sent a PR yesterday to delete our Helm v2 documentation and configuration files for Terraform. So I just want to give people a heads up. I think we've mentioned recently that Google hosts those. Okay, thanks, April. We mentioned a while back that you should be moving to Helm v3. Hopefully people have had a chance to do that if they're using Helm. If not, now would be a great time to do that because the documentation and code changes should be live with 1.10, which coincidentally releases about 3 days before Helm v2's end of life. Alternatively, if anybody is really still using Helm v2 and strongly objects, please comment on the pull request. We can delay deleting it because it theoretically should keep working, but I definitely want to remove the documentation because we don't want to encourage people to keep using it.
Nice. And I'm also just looking like it looks like what you've done here is you've said, okay, we'll remove the documentation with the next release. You're not just like deleting it straight away. I think that's nice.
Exactly. Yeah. So documentation will go away with the next release as long and the config files will go away, so they won't be part of the next release.
Yep.
Yeah. So anybody who wants to use it can pin themselves to 1.9 for a little while until they're ready to upgrade.
I like it. Also, for some reason, your PR is not going through.
It was failing last night with some 429 errors hitting GitHub, so it may still be doing that.
Cry. Anyway. That's the end of the list of stuff. This is a remarkably quick meeting. April, you look like you're about to say something.
No, I would, other than to see if anybody else had anything.
I made a comment in the chat. The call for presentations for Red Hat Summit is open. So if anybody wants to do anything on Agones or just games in general on Kubernetes and OpenShift, I'd be happy to help be a co-presenter and ferret through any of those things.
So we just live stream some stuff again, Eric?
We can do that too.
There
But
you go.
if anybody's itching for a presentation at a conference, that one is open right now for the proposals.
Cool. What should I think? Oh, there's some interesting stuff. Actually, there was something interesting that came up in Slack a while ago. I seem to having just as top of brain. I've had a few conversations recently about two particular things. One is like people asking about how people are mounting assets externally and populating those assets, which we have a ticket on and we sort of bounce around a bit. So if people have patterns that they've like to use for like volume mounts or putting assets somewhere on the internet and then providing them to particular images in some way, shape, or form. I'd love to have some of those best practices documented somewhere, I think. The conversation keeps coming up a lot, and I think a lot of people are reinventing the wheel. The other one that's come up a few times in a few places is people doing like crash dumps and finding patterns to do that. I think we had a conversation in Slack about that, and there were a few different things that came out of there. I had the same conversation again the other day with another user, and having some defined patterns for that, I think would also be kind of cool if people have found ways of doing that. I think it'd be really good, and just documenting some of that. This probably goes back to, again, so having like a solutions or like an opinionated solution section in the documentation for common problems and how people are solving them, to at least give people a starting place to work from. So if people have thoughts on either of those. That would be useful. Write some notes.
I definitely have thoughts about the uploading. I think I was on the Slack thread when we talked about it.
Yeah.
It's definitely doable. Daemon set sounded the way I would go about it, but I've not had to do it myself yet, so I've not actually built it. So I'd be leaning on what other people are doing.
Yeah, it
but
seemed like
I'm more than happy to put it into a contrib repo or something.
Yeah, the things that were interesting, the follow-up conversation I had from that was it working out how to ensure that the crash dump was identifiable as to which game server it came from. And so like making sure it went into like a directory with the game server name in it, or it's in the file name or something like that. Yeah. The thought I actually had as well, like to your point, like it seems like you want to take your crash dump. It's where the crash dump is stored seems to be assigned inside like the config file inside the Linux. There's a Linux config. But it looks like you can pass it to a secondary program. And since you could pass environment variables through, the secondary program could be like, oh, I will take this file and just rename it and then stick it in the appropriate spot that it should go, or something like that.
Interesting. I've not seen that before. That's kind of cool.
Something like that's where I was sort of thinking. That was like a theory.
Because I think in majority, at least from my experience of Unreal, we can't name crash dumps in any particular way. It's just
right. Yeah.
So I would have gone down the route of mount a volume with a certain name and drop it in there.
Yeah. But how do you know what that name is?
Yeah, you don't, do you? It's a good point.
Yeah, that's a bit of chicken and egg. But you can get the environment variable of, like, you can use the downward API on K8s to pass the name and the namespace through. So, and the pod name matches the game server name for a lot of reasons. So if you can, it looked like in that config, you're like, crash dump, the config allows you to pass the file to a separate program, either maybe as a thing, so you could like do stuff like uploading or whatever you want. But what you're actually just going to do is just rename it or stick another file next to it, maybe that has the meta information or something in that sort of vein before you check it in directory. That was my thought. That was my theory.
It's cool.
Again, don't know if it works. With the actually to your point, Dominic, when you're talking about an Unreal crash dump, is that coming from Unreal itself, or is that like a Linux crash dump?
I think ours is coming down from Unreal.
Okay,
we're not doing anything with them at the minute. We're just literally crashing the game server at that point.
Okay.
I mean, Unreal is just all kinds of fun. If you really want to get into Unreal and human readable logs, that's really helpful.
Yep.
What else is helpful? No concept of tracing metrics or anything like that, so that's even more fun.
Sounds like you're having a ball. Cool. I think those are the only things that kind of cool. That's it. That's me. I think that's all my stuff.
I wanted to talk about the Terraform configuration.
Ooh.
It looks like on all the configuration that we introduced to the Helm are not introduced to the Terraform that we added for Agones. How are we maintaining it?
Yep. Previously, I've added them only what was changing a lot, but we can make a one-to-one relation between what we have and the here and there.
Okay.
I mean, the problem here that we are introducing all these for any, for example, GKey, EKS, etc. So, but we could require for any new Helm configurations to pass it to Terraform, I think.
Okay, so it's manual. Every time we add a new configuration, we have to add it to the Terraform. It's not like get everything that is provided.
Oh, but you can pass the value. You can pass the value files through. That is an option. So you do have access to all the values going through to the Helm configuration that way. Okay. I think we've just pulled some stuff out where people are like, I think whenever someone's like, oh, I wish I had this thing in the Terraform, they go and put an arg in there.
Okay, I see.
I think that would you agree with that, Alex?
Yeah, values.yaml file was used. It has this some new variable. It's just to use local one or local defaults, or use what is predefined.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have a look. So the Helm Agones. Oops, no, I'm in the wrong spot. Terraform Helm 3. There we go. Variables. Yeah, I think we just have. Yeah, I think primarily it's the quote unquote most important. I think probably based on just people going in and doing it. But yeah, if you ever need to change anything, you can pass through the values file. And if you can't, that'd be a problem. I think you can. Now you got me looking. Yeah, there's a values file. Okay, good.
Do you happen to know offhand, Mark, what happens if you pass a values file that has values that you can also set via Terraform config? Like,
I was literally just looking at that. All right, so values is that. And then I think it might get overwritten by the Terraform, actually.
That's kind of how it looks like it would read to me, but I don't know if that's what happens
Yeah.
in practice.
That is a good question. I'm not sure, and that's how it reads to me too, just because they have the set values there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. We could probably add some tweaks to that. I don't think there's an easy way, and I'm trying to remember if last time I touched Terraform whether there's an easy way of saying, is this variable set? And if so, do the thing. But if it's not, then don't. Because they're all defaulted as well. Yeah, they are all defaulted.
Right. So if you had something in your values file, it might get overridden by a default in the Terraform. Which
form. Yeah.
And I think if you specify it in both places, and that's undefined.
Yes. Just having a look to see what's coming through here. So full policy, full secret. Yeah. In retrospect, probably shouldn't have the Helm values as Terraform values. Probably should have forced a values file. Maybe. It's a good question.
By the way, there is a Terraform test, so you can run make Terraform test and or tweak it a bit to test what you expect to see.
Yeah, that's nice, actually. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, it's do Terraform apply. Then in the middle, what can have kube client in it, so you can make some queries, and after that, do Terraform destroy.
Yep.
Because it's only one default test, and this Terraform, this Terragrant or test allows you to do lots more, like testing the Helm configuration files, and there is a ticket for that. I can push it to the document.
Nice. Sweet. It's sounding like we don't have anything else. April, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Nope.
No. Cool.
Well, actually, I guess for November, our next meeting would be on Thanksgiving in the US, so that's probably not going to happen. So we'll probably move it up a week to be on the 18th.
Seems legit.
Unless anyone has issues with that, I will do that now.
No. What is it? Also, just a reminder, what is it? Not next week, the week after is release candidate. So that's coming up too. Apparently that just comes up every 6 weeks.
As long as you're shifting meetings, April, why don't you shift the December one also, because it's on the 24th right now.
Oh, I think
you
we
want to
definitely
spend Christmas Eve with us? What the heck?
I mean, you're going to be at home anyway, so like,
Should we even have a December meeting?
maybe we skip December.
I was gonna say, most of the time everybody's checked out, you know, the historical checking out after KubeCon that happens. So
Unless we just want to get together and be like, hey, what's up? You want to play Among Us?
okay, that would be fun. We'll do that. We'll make it a winter Festivus meeting.
play Bomberman on
The
Stadia.
only rule is we're
non-meeting
not
meeting.
playing any game that anyone developed. So no, like, you know.
Unless it
Steven,
runs
we're
on
not gonna
Agones.
play.
But if it runs on Agones, I think that's fair game. I think that's fair game.
No, because it's not fair. If you developed it, you have a secret in. It's not
Oh, I
fair.
see. You just want to win. Ah, I understand now. I understand.
I can just see, you know, playing the snakes with Steven and, you know, like, it's weird how suddenly he's winning. Mhm, yeah.
There's also a release, Agones release on December 22nd. So I don't necessarily want to skip December altogether because then we wouldn't have any meeting around that last release of the year.
Oh yeah. You're saying should we skip the release then as well? Maybe.
I think
No, I guess
Robbie
I'm
just
saying-
volunteered to do the release.
No, I'm saying we should probably have a meeting in case there's something related to the release that we should be telling people.
Oh, I see. That sounds reasonable. Maybe we bump the meeting up to like mid-December or something then.
Put it on the 17th. It's the week before. So, which is roughly mid-December. So,
Stable release happens 2 days before. Yeah, we'll see if that. I'm saying how that works out.
That's totally going to happen because we'll have a release candidate and we'll have to turn the crank to just push out the
Turn
release.
it on. There you go. Either that or it'll be a what's the one thing that's going to happen this week? A release. That's what's going to happen this week. That is the one thing we're going to get done.
I mean, we might be overthinking it because, like, we don't usually sync up the meetings with releases and it works fine. So, I'm just saying.
There's one of that.
Steven, how are you? You've been way too quiet.
I know I don't have much to much to complain about this time. So.
That's
I have
not
just-
bad, you know.
No, we are going to now look into helm upgrade though. So that's.
I have it on good authority that, like, yes, once it's depreciated, you should definitely upgrade as quickly as possible, but the world will not come to an end. So,
Yeah, it's all right. If you don't upgrade, Steven, I mean, it's not like we know where you live and we'll come find you. I mean, we do know where you live and we'll come find you.
Embarrassing now.
It's just a lot of work.
I mean, I don't know that it's that big of an issue, but you know,
Helm 3 is really nice compared to Helm 2. Like it's so much simpler. No more tiller. It makes things so much simpler. The Terraform scripts are simpler. Like there's just so much. I was actually really happy with it.
I know Franklin. What's everybody playing? Anything exciting?
What am I playing?
I binged The Forest a few weeks ago and then started on Night of the Dead. Very, very similar, but very different experiences.
I don't know
Okay.
any of these games.
They are like crafting open world survival style.
Oh yeah, not my thing.
I was gonna say the kind of
Yeah.
stuff you don't like. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the kind
Oh,
of
and
game
then
I
I-
would like to make, but not the kind of game I would like to play.
Got it. And then I also started Torchlight 2, which has been sitting in my catalog for quite some time.
So you went back to 2. 2 is good. 2 is a really good game.
I never played 2, so
Okay.
I played 1. Like I'm a weird gamer in that I end up playing stuff like way after the curve.
Yeah, I think it's the same. I understand.
So, you know, by the time I played Division 2, like nobody was playing it anymore. So I was all by myself all the time.
Oh, I've been actually waiting to start playing that.
Mm,
So I feel you.
I'm sorry. We'll have to be more in sync with our
Yeah.
with our old game playing.
Yep. I've been playing Bird Force, which is ridiculously dumb.
Broforce?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think I saw that one. It looks
Wait,
pretty
like-
fun.
Bro Force?
Like
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yep. It's dumb. It's really dumb. It's a side-scrolling shoot 'em up with like just broy everything. It's dumb and very silly. And when did it come out? Like 2013? Oh my god, it's really old. But it's all like it's pixely, so it doesn't matter. It's like Contra, but like just dumber.
All right. I finished Spiritfarer, and now I'm back in the Stardew Valley. Speaking of pixelated graphics, so Spiritfarer is good, but it did make me cry at least a couple of times. So
I can see that.
It has feels. It has feels, and it also like was really engaging up front, and then like you reach a point where like, all right, this is the same stuff over and over again. So.
Oh, is anyone playing Disco Elysium?
I wouldn't mind. It looks cool.
It does, right? I'm trying to decide if I have the patience.
Just remember, there's a whole lot coming very soon.
There's always a whole lot coming.
Yeah, there's
soon.
always a lot coming. My issue with games like
got a lot of big stuff. So
yeah, my issue with games like Disco is mostly I play things in fits and spurts, and so I might binge for like 3 hours a day for several days, and then not touch anything for 4 months. And any kind of like RPG with a story that you need to follow, I come back to it and I'm like, I have no idea who any of these people are, and then I'm just clicking my way until the end. It's not very good.
yeah, that's kind of like why I need Destiny, the new one, to come out, because I haven't played it in a while because there's nothing exciting, and so meh.
I think I've also sort of come to a point that like any game that Devolver Digital is behind, that I should just play. Because so many of them are just ridiculous and fun. Or like poignant and fun. Also, I've played a lot of games from Devolver Digital. Like Katana Zero and if you haven't played My Friend Pedro, I recommend.
I find myself playing a lot of mobile games, not just because of the job, but
Can't imagine why. Yeah.
I'm playing this. It's kind of weird. It's called Sandship. You basically set up a production line to make I don't know, metals and like rods and screws and things, and then you use those to build. I don't know. It sounds kind of boring, but it's kind of interesting placing all the little machines.
I think these are the kind of games we need in our very stressful times, though. That's kind of why I, like Stardew Valley is like my, Xanax, basically. Just tune out from the stressful world and farm. I'm now convinced I'd be an excellent farmer.
I believe that. Franklin would love it.
He would. He really would.
He really
Open
would.
Space to run, and yeah, as long as there was a Starbucks nearby, because he does need his pumpkin bread. Franklin is my dog. He's obsessed with pumpkin bread. Like, I have my Starbucks right now. Pumpkin bread. Hey, Franklin. Oh, look, you're right here. How weird. Yeah.
There we
He's
go.
a fiend. He's a fiend. But he's a cute fiend.
Now I'm buying Switch games.
Oh, there's Spellbound. Is that the new?
Yes, people are playing that.
Yeah. Oh, Spellbreak. That's what it is.
Aren't you playing that?
I mean, I downloaded it on Switch and I did the tutorial.
Okay. Oh, it's on Switch? Oh, maybe I'll actually.
It's on everything and it's free. I think it's like Fortnite, I guess, but with like
Magicians.
wizards.
Yeah.
Which theoretically, I'm always about, I like the wizarding. Usually because you don't have to aim as well as you do with a gun, but I haven't really played it yet. But it seemed pretty straightforward from the tutorial. So, and it is a multiplayer cross-platform. So
Nice.
I'm sure in November we'll have all sorts of like, I've been playing this, and I haven't left my couch in days. There's a lot coming in November.
What's even coming? I don't even keep track.
Cyberpunk.
Man, like I'm so torn on that one because I was like a huge Cyberpunk fan when I was a kid. The original paper and pen R. Talsorian.
Oh yeah, I played that too.
Well, so here's the thing. I bought like a ton of the books and never played it because the only two kids that I was friendly with at the time that were interested in that stuff, one of them, the mother was like this super religious evangelical Christian, and so any kind of role playing game didn't matter that there was no magic in Cyberpunk. Like it was devil stuff, so he wasn't allowed to play. And then the other kid was fine. And then by the time I found a group of kids to do paper and pen, we did the Star Wars D6 RPG, which was awesome. Like I had a great summer playing D6 Star Wars RPG, which is totally so cool if you're into Star Wars. So just never got a chance to do paper and pen Cyberpunk. And so now that the video game's coming out, I'm like, oh, is it going to ruin it for me? Like, I don't know.
There's also Assassin's Creed, so you know where I'll be.
Yeah, which is what's the theme for the new one? Because Valhalla is the current one, right?
Well, no, that is the new one.
What's the new one?
Oh, yeah. That's what's coming? I thought it was already out.
No, not yet.
No, Odyssey is the one that's been out. So you're going from Greece to Vikings. Spider-Man PS5, Miles Morales is coming. Excuse me, but Paw Patrol Mighty Pups Save Adventure Bay is coming, so Borderlands 3.
No, Borderlands 3. Wait, no, Borderlands 3's been out for a while.
There must be something else because it says November 10th. There must be like a
some other Borderlands.
Yeah, there's another DLC coming out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I figured that's what it was. Yeah,
Borderlands 3 was good. I really enjoyed that game. A lot of people who didn't. I actually thought it was really well done, and I thought the ending of it was like right on.
Well, apparently it's not actually ending.
Yeah, that's fine. I played it. It's done.
You're like, I'm done with this.
Yes. Also, Ice-T does a lot of the voiceovers, which is hilarious, and he does an excellent job.
Just Dance 2021.
Are you into the dancing games? Gosh, it's been so long.
No, but it's good. I didn't realize that the Spider-Man one was coming on November 12th, which means that I should really get Assassin's Creed on the PC because my husband will have the PlayStation commandeered. So these are the important things that we have to navigate.
Yep.
All right, well, everyone come back in November with a book report ready on the games you have played and pros and cons.
Cool.
And how it would be 1,000 times better if it was running on Agones. So that's what we expect. So
I just assume they'll do.
You know, we're getting there. World domination eventually will be there along the way.
We have been building a multiplayer game as part of a live streaming effort with the OpenShift stuff, but we're so early that like we don't even have a server yet. It's still like really, really, really early. I don't know that we'll be able to use Agones because it's like a different paradigm. But we'll see once we get to a point where there's actually a server to be run.
That's cool though that you're building a game.
Yeah, well, we actually have like a bunch of games at Red Hat that have been built sort of unofficially, randomly for various things. There are a lot of like Node.js-y, JavaScript-y browser games. But we were like, well, what would it take to build something proof of concept wise that you could actually like scale really large using OpenShift and Kubernetes and other pieces of the Red Hat portfolio? And so we're just kind of hacking our way through it. Like how could we use messaging? How could we use our data grid? How could we, do whatever? So yeah, we'll see when we get somewhere.
I was gonna say you should put a link to that in the working doc so folks can check it out.
In the Google Doc, you mean? This one?
Yeah,
From
in the
today's
notes.
meeting?
Yeah, just to the like FYI. Here's a cool thing going on if folks are interested.
Sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
Red Hat Gaming. No, Red Hat Game Dev. There it is.
All right. Well, I guess we can wrap it up. And thanks everybody for joining. And then we will see y'all in November if we can pull ourselves away from the new releases that we will all be playing then. And I'll get the recording up soon, and I will ping in Slack when it is ready. So until then, bye y'all.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Mark.
Bye.